evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to wish a very, very happy Independence Day to all our viewers. As India turns 78, we celebrate our freedom from the evil of colonialism. But when will we attain Azadi from social evils is a big question that we face even today. Are we not shackled by communalism and casteism? Some laws in the garb of inclusivity still propagate discrimination. Today, from the ramparts of the Red Fort, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a strong pitch for secularism, going way beyond the call for uniformity. The Prime Minister today envisioned a secular civil code, calling the current civil code communal. He said that the religious discrimination by this civil code must end. This call for a secular equality was in reference to the Muslim personal laws, which till date prescribe polygamy, discriminatory inheritance for women, and even child marriage. Till every Muslim woman and child enjoys the same rights as other Indians, can our Azadi be complete? Of course, the irony is such that the self-appointed secular brigade still backs archaic and prejudiced laws with an eye on their vote banks. But first, let's listen in to the Prime Minister who spoke from Red Fort today with a big push for secularism and equality in all laws.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, हमारे देश में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बार बार यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड को लेकर जो चर्चा की है, अनेक बार आदेश दिए हैं, क्योंकि देश का एक बहुत बड़ा वर्ग मानता है और उसमें सच्चाई भी है कि जिस सिविल कोड को हम लेकर के जी रहे हैं, वो सिविल कोड सचमुच में तो एक प्रकार का कम्युनल सिविल कोड है, भेदभाव करने वाला सिविल कोड है। ऐसे सिविल कोड से जब संविधान के 75 वर्ष मना रहे हैं और संविधान की भावना भी जो हमें कहती है करने के लिए, देश की सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी हमें कहती है करने के लिए, और तब जो संविधान निर्माताओं का सपना था, उस सपने को पूरा करना हम सबका दायित्व है। और मैं मानता हूं इस गंभीर विषय पर देश में चर्चा हो, व्यापक चर्चा हो, हर कोई अपने विचारों को लेकर के आए और उन कानूनों को, जो कानून धर्म के आधार पर देश को बांटते, जो ऊंच नीच का कारण बन जाते हैं, ऐसे कानूनों को आधुनिक समाज में कोई स्थान नहीं हो सकता है। और इसलिए मैं तो कहूंगा, अब समय की मांग है कि देश में एक सेकुलर सिविल कोड हो। हमने कम्युनल सिविल कोड में 75 साल बिताए हैं, अब हमें सेक्युलर सिविल कोड की तरफ जाना होगा, और तब जाकर के देश में धर्म के आधार पर जो भेदभाव हो रहे हैं, सामान्य नागरिक को जो दूरी महसूस होती है, उससे हमें मुक्ति मिलेगी।
While the Prime Minister made a pitch to end casteism and communalism, the likes of the Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav said that Muslims and Yadav Babus are being shunted out ahead of Uttar Pradesh by polls. Why, till date, do we need to bank on specific castes and religions to win Satta? Today, this declaration of intent to walk towards true secularism by the Prime Minister has rattled the entire class of the opposition. They, in fact, have cited the Constitution to say that Muslim personal laws have been guaranteed under the Constitution. Listen in to the opposition voices.
These are hot air balloons being floated to somehow distract people, to somehow polarize people.
Whatever Prime Minister spoke today at Red Fort was nothing but in order to explain their divisive, disastrous, sinister agenda.
सेकुलर नाम से चिढ़ने वाला राजनीतिक दल भाजपा है। समाजवाद के नाम से चिढ़ने वाला कोई दल अगर है तो भाजपा है।
एक तो सेकुलर सिविल कोड की बात वो लोग करते हैं जिन्होंने अपने 10 साल के कार्यकाल में सिवाय मुसलमानों को हिट करने की कुछ नहीं किया। शादी, तलाक और निकाह, इन 3 चीजों में संविधान ने मुझे इजाजत दी है कि मैं अपने लॉ के हिसाब से उस पर अमल कर सकता हूं। तो ये क्यों इस पर तुले हुए हैं कि भाई इन तीनों को खत्म करना चाहिए?
Tonight on the News Hour, I want to fact check all the facts in this case. And I will rely on the observations of the Supreme Court in 3 different orders. Watch how it admonished successive governments for failing the vision of the Constitution in bringing in a uniform civil code. In 1985 Supreme Court order on Shah Bano case, it said, and I quote, Article 44 has remained a dead letter. There's no evidence of any official activity for framing a common civil code. It will help national integration by removing disparate loyalties to laws which have conflicting ideologies. A beginning has to be made if the Constitution is to have any meaning. This is in 1985 by the Supreme Court. In the 1995 Sarla Mudgal case, the Supreme Court said, successive governments till date have been wholly remiss in their duty of implementing the constitutional mandate under Article 44. Again, in 2019, the Goa Civil Code order, the Apex Court said, founders of the Constitution had hoped and expected that the state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens of this country a uniform civil code, but till date, no action has been taken in this regard. Those are the facts. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legitimate question that we are asking on the News Hour tonight: when will Bharat attain secular azadi? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight on this Independence Day are Shehzad Poonawala, national spokesperson of the BJP. Also joining me tonight is Deepak Reddy, national spokesperson of the Telugu Desam Party. Ratan Sharda, author, RSS supporter. Abbas Haider, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, joining the show. Waris Pathan, national spokesperson of the AIMIM, also on the show. And also joining me this evening is Sanjay Jha, suspended Congress leader. A very happy Independence Day to you, all of you, as well as our viewers tonight. But Sanjay Jha, why is the Congress party just up in arms every time the word common civil code or a secular civil code or a uniform civil code is brought up? Why are you in a twist every time? In fact, Jairam Ramesh has gone on to make a very, very direct attack and stated that the Prime Minister is actually speaking against Baba Saheb Ambedkar. I want to ask you, the Constitution and the Supreme Court, I've already stated 3 occasions on when the Supreme Court have said that the Constitution in its real spirit will only come when there is a uniform law for every person in this country, because that is what our forefathers wanted. And that is the fact of the case. Why would you want to target the Prime Minister every time he mentions this word? Do you want women in the Muslim community to continue to suffer because of differential treatment in laws between men, women, children, which are male children and female children from rest of the Indians? I want to ask you, what's the logic?
Navika, firstly, a good evening to you and to my fellow panelists, and a very happy Independence Day to all our wonderful viewers. You have raised a very valid point. Let me try and answer it very, very quickly for you. I have read Jairam's tweet and he's absolutely hit, as they say, the right buttons. Mr. Modi's hypocrisy is there for the world to see. And I'll tell you why. By calling the current practices that we have in our civil code as communal, it is a very blatant attack and a humiliation of Dr. Ambedkar himself, who's one of the architects of the Indian Constitution. So the mindset of this party against what I call as the disempowered and the disprivileged communities of India is for the world to see. But most importantly, look at the hypocrisy of Mr. Modi. He insults his own office of the Prime Minister. Look at what is the 21st Law Commission saying, which Jairam has clearly mentioned. that end of day, any change can only happen with stakeholders. And even if there are prevalent differences, that doesn't mean an unhealthy democracy. But I want to tell you in 30 seconds, 5 examples of when Mr. Modi talks about secularism, we can only choke with laughter at how blatantly he's trying to fool the people of India. Flood jihad, that's what his Assam chief minister said the other day. UP government wants people to put out the names of shopkeepers clearly targeting a particular community. You have the Prime Minister himself accused of making hate speeches during the election campaign. The Waqf Board amendment without even considering the stakeholders. I'm giving you recent examples. Suvendu Adhikari openly saying Sabka Saath, Sabka Biswas is all nonsense. I've given you 5 examples in 30 seconds that tell you that Mr. Modi's BJP doesn't care for secularism. It's all about majoritarian politics for a political agenda. For Mr. Modi to use the platform of the Independence Day to assume that the people of India can be fooled tells you that the arrogance of power has clearly intoxicated him. But there is a gentleman on your panel from TDP. I would love to know from him his views on cooperative federalism, because Mr. Modi has talked about one state, one election as well. And I would love to know where they stand on that, including, by the way, as you rightly mentioned, on the Uniform Civil Code.
All right. I'll get in Mr. Deepak Reddy. They're always very keen to know Mr. Deepak Reddy because they always want to try their chances. And Independence Day is no different. But before I get into Mr. Deepak Reddy, the charges are really against the BJP. So Shehzad Poonawalla, please respond to the charge that calling the current laws communal is really an insult and humiliation for the constitution makers, including Baba Saheb Ambedkar. That's the charge against the BJP and Prime Minister Modi.
First of all, Navika, it is not for me personally, even though it's my mother's birthday, a very happy Independence Day, especially when 50% of the country is on the streets demanding justice for Bengal's Nirbhaya, and therefore I wish everybody a very somber Independence Day. And today the discussion that we are having also, the Uniform Civil Code, ultimately it is a discussion of a major tool in the hands of women for women empowerment and women protection. And as usual, the Congress party is opposing it in the name of vote bank politics, which they have continued to do from Shah Banu to Shaira Banu, from the 1985 law that they brought to overturn the Supreme Court decision to the opposition to the Triple Talaq law being passed after the Supreme Court asked for it to be passed. That is the stand of the Congress party. But if Sanjay Jha says that UCC should not be called secular, then in Goa, UCC was implemented by the Congress party. Were they implementing a communal law? The UCC was put in the Constitution, Article 44, and ironically they say Samvidhan Bachao, by the members of the founding fathers of the Constitution, many of whom were Congress members. So is Mr. Sanjay Jha saying that those likes of Nehru, Ambedkar ji, they were communal for putting Uniform Civil Code? By the way, this country has a Uniform Criminal Code. So having a Uniform Criminal Code is actually communal. It's not secular. That means if Sanjay now does a crime and Shehzad does a crime, Shehzad should have different punishment and Sanjay should have different punishment if we both end up in a stealing or in a murder. So this kind of logic only Sanjay Jha can give. But having said that, let me take the conversation further. Mr. Sanjay Jha is saying Ambedkar ji is being insulted. Sir, please do read the views of Ambedkar ji. He never advocated for a law that allows a 60-year-old to marry a 12-year-old and should be given protection under personal laws. In fact, he has been staunchly against this kind of laws, and Ambedkar ji's insult, Congress party should be the last person talking about it when they denied him Bharat Ratna for almost 4 decades, and they also defeated him twice while he was alive in elections. Having said that, let me come to another point also. He's asking views of TDP. Sir, first ask views of Uddhav Thackeray on this issue of UCC. He has actually supported the UCC. And lastly, I want to say that Chandrachud ji's face was shown when UCC was being spoken about, our Chief Justice. You know, it was his father who was also Chief Justice who advocated, along with many other high courts, that Uniform Civil Code should come into this country. I just have one question to ask of Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, today you're not opposing a secular law. You are standing in favor of a 60-year-old man to get married to a 12-year-old girl, and would you do that in your family? The answer is no. But he wants many other people who do this, whose reality is there that they are doing this. They should get the protection in the name of personal law. So today Sanjay Jha is supporting pedophilia and he's standing against women's rights. Let the entire country see this. This is the same Sanjay Jha who will not say a word that Mamata Banerjee should resign. He will not say a word for justice for Nirbhaya in Bengal.
Sanjay Jha, it's a very thought-provoking, derivative of the facts, that you stand in support of.
Navika, let me just kind of answer him back since he started by talking about protection of women. Let me tell you, Navika, and I'm going to take 20 seconds only. We are celebrating our Independence Day today, and Vinesh Fogart has not got her silver medal. And we all know how this political party actually stopped her from even leading a regular life of a sportsperson because they wanted to protect a BJP leader who sexually harassed her and several athletes. And go back 2 years earlier, Mr. Shehzad, to the 75th celebration of India's independence, where Bilkis Banu's rapists were released, 11 of them. And you have the audacity and the effrontery here to talk about women power?
Well,
head in shame.
I would also want you to remind you, because Bilkis Bano, I take your point. Vinesh Fogart, I take your point. Brij Bhushan Singh, I take your point. But I also want to bring to the notice of all our viewers that it took 5 days for Rahul Gandhi to put out a single tweet on Bengal. So this selective political gimmickry that goes on is not lost on anybody, Sanjay Jha.
For one line?
Bengal is horrific and everybody has condemned it.
No, but it took 5 days. It took 5 days for Mr. Rahul Gandhi to respond. Horrific. We know. We've been asking questions about that, but obviously Rahul Gandhi had no time. He had time for the Hindenburg report and the opposition to that, but he had no time to tweet on Kolkata. And that is the selective politics that needs to be exposed. And selective politics on the Uniform Civil Code. Selective politics on the Uniform Civil Code is something that the Congress has resorted to every single time. But you want to know, Deepak Reddy? Deepak Reddy, I ask you tonight. Do you want that the marriage age for women, whether they are Hindus or Muslims or Sikhs or Christians, should be uniform, or should that be left to personal laws and women welfare and women's security just take a backseat?
Navika, on this special day, Independence Day, I would like to start off by saying that we as a nation should look back into our history, because we got our independence after a struggle of few generations of more than 100 years. So we need to look at it in a larger aspect, and we'll get the answers there. Now, most of this India ecosystem who keeps talking about all these political jugglery. Let me tell one thing very clear. Take the Constitution, read it thoroughly, and you will understand the answers are right there. If you still can't understand, go into the debates of the Constituent Assembly, and then most of it is already discussed there. So today what the India ecosystem does in almost most of the cases is to try to do divisive politics. Let me give you a couple of examples. Why these changes are required. It's because it is discriminatory and there is severe injustice being done to certain aspects of our society. Like, let's take, for example, adoption. Muslims cannot adopt. But if you come to the Parsi community, there is discrimination between the adoption of a boy and a girl. Is that acceptable for us? Now let's talk about divorce. Catholic law doesn't allow that. And then if you talk about the Sikh 1909 Act, there is no provision. And then the Muslims, we know after divorce, they're not getting justice on the alimony aspect. And now let's talk about the age aspect. 15 years. I mean, is it right to rob a child of their childhood? Is this correct? And I'm sure Mr. Rahul Gandhi would also, sympathize on this, because even at the age of 54, he's still not yet married. So he would understand, that you can't rob a child's youth. And then coming to polygamy, I don't think there is much of an issue on this for Mr. Gandhi, because he hasn't gotten married once also. So he understands that this is not going to be an issue. And most men in India don't have a problem with this, because managing one woman itself is quite expensive and quite difficult nowadays. So they don't want to look at 4. So now coming to the succession aspect, a Christian mother cannot inherit her child's property. Is that right? So these are discriminatory practices which have to go, and they have to be uniformity. And if you look at the partition of India, it has happened only because of such discriminatory practices. So if we have to be a superpower or be a great nation in the coming days, our heart has to beat as one, and the answer is right here. And coming to Mr. Sanjay Jha's question, Mr. Sanjay Jha is actually, he got independence from Congress party quite some time ago. But why is he still wanting to be a slave in mind and heart to that party? I don't know. He has to answer. And as far as the single election is concerned, I know it is against the interest of regional parties. It is against the interest of regional parties. But still, the greatness of Chandrababu Naidu ji and Lokesh ji is that we go with it because of the larger interest of the nation. So we are very clear on that aspect.
Deepak Reddy, I just want to register one protest. When you said that men should not get into polygamy because one woman is difficult to handle, I register my protest. It's not very nice to say that to women. Maybe you just meant that women don't have a reciprocal
lighter note, Navika.
Since I'm the only woman on the panel, I'm registering my protest that your insinuation will have to be rebutted, because I think if you want to have polygamy, then the right should be both ways. It shouldn't be one way. But I take your point that polygamy clearly cannot be something that we continue to hold as a personal right, whichever community is. And that's the question I want to ask Waris Pathan. How is this interference into any of the aspects of your religion? You are a lawyer. Your boss, the leader of the party AIMIM, is a barrister. He, more than anybody, should know that all Indian citizens are equal in the eyes of law. And to make that happen, you cannot have laws that are different in your community, in the Muslim community, from those that are practiced by other Indians. Why should a girl who's born to a Muslim family not get the same rights as other girls? I keep asking you this question because बेटियां सबकी हैं. आपको उनके लिए बुरा नहीं लगता?
Well, Navika, good evening to you and to my co-panelist, and a very, very happy Independence Day to all the viewers and to the entire nation. The first and foremost thing is that Modi and the BJP, they don't follow the constitution given to us by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, though Modi has become a prime minister by taking oath on the constitution. Now he talks about getting the uniform civil code. Now, Mr. Modi, I would like to ask him, has he ever read Article 29 of the constitution which speaks about right to culture? What will happen to that? Everybody, it is a fundamental right granted to us by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar in the constitution, which Modi does not want to follow. What about section 24, 25, 26, which speak about the pluralism and diversity of our great nation? We practice religion. Everybody has got their own type of to practice religion. Everybody is a fundamental. These are the basic structure of the constitution. Right to practice religion, right to practice culture. But Mr. Modi wants to take over that also. Now coming back to, there are certain states in the country, in Goa, cow is yummy, but in other state, cow is mummy. What will Modi do with that? You spoke about the marriage. In Muslim, marriage is a contract. As per the Hindu right, it is janam janam ka saath, and as per the Christianity, it is I do. What he will do with that? Will he remove everything and make it into one thing? Now coming back towards Shehzad, BJP spokesperson spoke just now about the women empowerment. I would like to remind him, Shehzad, we stood with Nirbhaya, we stand with justice for Nirbhaya, justice.
Please do not name a victim of rape. I'm sorry, please do not name a victim of rape. You are a lawyer, and if you don't know the law in this manner, how can you name the victim? And that is where the insensitivity comes from.
I know the law, it is trending.
You know the law, so
well, Navika,
how can you name it?
I don't know. Well, Navika, allow me. Well, Navika, it is trending. If you don't follow the Twitter, it is not my concern, it is yours. You have to see what is going on.
I'm sorry, you are not doing a live show on Twitter which does not have any laws to govern it. I'm sorry, you are sitting on a national television channel that is going broadcasting live, and you cannot use that. Varis Pathan, I am talking about insensitivity. Just because some name is taken on Twitter, you want to take it out here? I think this is abominable. This is the complete disrespect to Constitution, the laws of the land, and what the Supreme Court has said our behavior should be. This is exactly what I want to demonstrate to the people of India. This is how
is it against the Constitution?
Mr. Varis Pathan, and this is how Mr. Varis Pathan becomes a takedown of an entire community as he owns, and he's the only voice. I'm lowering your fader. I'm lowering your fader until and unless you apologize for taking the name of a victim of rape, maybe gang rape and murder. Varis Pathan, this kind of insensitivity is unacceptable and intolerable. I'm lowering your fader. Shehzad Poonawala, insensitivity on display, disregard for laws on display here.
You see, anybody who supports the idea that a 65-year-old should marry a 12-year-old and get the religious protection for it, obviously they will display this. Where was Varis Pathan when Teen Talaq law was asked to be passed by Supreme Court? Where was Varis Pathan when the 1985 Shah Banu decision was undone by the Supreme Court and now it has allowed Muslim women to claim maintenance? They have opposed this. Now let's come to Ambedkarji, and I want to quote my good friend Akhilesh Mishra has put out on Twitter the quotation of Ambedkarji on UCC. Please listen from the Constituent Assembly. My friend Imam Hussain is rising to support the amendments, asked whether it is possible and desirable to have uniform civil code or code of laws in this country so vast as this. Now, I must confess that I was very much surprised at the statement for a simple reason that we have a country, a uniform code of laws covering almost every important aspect of human relationship. We have a uniform and complete criminal code operating throughout the country. Mr. Ambedkar was very much in support of this. Now, Article 14 का नाम सुना है क्या आपने? Article 29 quote करने वाले? And does Article 14 allow you to have exclusive law for waqf, where you can claim anybody's property, but Hindus and Parsis and Christians and Jews should not have the same right? What is this idea of secularism? Thirdly, I am asking you two very simple questions to all the panelists tonight. One, that if Sanjay Jha marries a 12-year-old girl, he will be prosecuted under Child Marriage Act. But if supposing a person, say ABC, marries and he says it is part of my religion, he can get the religious cover. Should that anomaly be allowed? Point number one. And point number two, if there are criminal laws which are uniform, that means Sanjay does robbery, he will get same punishment as Shehzad. Then why should Shehzad and Sanjay have different civil laws? Shehzad and Muslims should be allowed to enjoy the permission for having any kind of civil laws. Hindu laws were reformed in 1950s. Why are you giving only this preference to the Muslim men? What about the Muslim women?
That has led the debate. I'm sorry. On this, I have zero tolerance. You cannot name a victim. And I have deepest respect for Mr. Varis Pathan, his party leader and his party. They are free to have whatever views. But when it comes to these laws and their sensitivities, especially in the matter of a rape victim cannot be named. That's the rule that has been laid down by the Supreme Court of India. I can't violate it. He's a politician, maybe he can. And insensitivity, let's not even go there. But Abbas Haider, secular civil code, why should we not have it? And the entire opposition brigade has always stood up for secularism. Why is secularism in the matter of laws not acceptable today? You have been the champions of so-called secularism, but is your secularism only in a manner in which you can appease and do your vote bank politics and not in the real spirit of the term secular?
Navika ji, first of all, a very happy Independence Day to you, all my co-panelists and the viewers of Times Now. Navika ji, in this grave time when people of the country expected a divisive action from the Indian government against what is happening in Bangladesh to the minorities of Bangladesh, the Prime Minister is in fact doing divisive politics inside the country. This is very unfortunate. Navika ji, you have mentioned Article 44, which is part of directive principle of the state policy. There are Article 25, 26, 27, 28, which are the fundamental of the Constitution. I don't have anything against Article 44. But what does Article 44 say? It says state shall make endeavors. What endeavors has the state made to bring them on the same page? It is the responsibility of the government, the people sitting in the power, to bring stakeholders on the same page. But no, they are not doing anything in that regard. They only want to do politics, politics, politics on such a sensitive issue. Navika ji, we must understand people whose ideological forefathers have called our national flag as communal. Now they are terming the laws of the land as communal. This is nothing new, Navika ji. I have seen in Bunch of Thought, MS Golwalkar has written, it was published in 1966. Our national flag was adopted in 1947. He has said that the national flag is communal. On the same Independence Day, they are calling the law of the land as communal. I mean, what endeavors have you made to bring the stakeholders on the same page? Just tell the viewers of Times Now.
आप कब की हिस्ट्री में जा रहे हैं? मैं तो कल और परसों के ट्वीट्स अखिलेश जी के सुना देती हूँ. Ratan Sharda, 3 days ago, Akhilesh Yadav ji tweeted finally on Bangladesh and the attack on minorities there. But you know what he called the Islamists there? You know what he called them? Alag nazariye wale bahusankhyak. Muslims कहते हुए मुश्किल हो रही थी, इतना convoluted tweet के किसी के समझ में ना आए. And then yesterday he tweeted that Yogi Adityanath's government is removing all Yadav and Muslim officers from election duty. Elections have not even been announced, but he already knows that they will be removed from election duty. Is he an astrologer, or is this just appeasement and vote bank politics?
Navika, first of all, I would not say this, wish everybody happy independence. For me, this day is tribute to the Hindu, Buddhist, Sikhs, Jains and Christians, minorities in 2 Islamic countries of Pakistan and Bangladesh, who have been paying price of our independence for the last 77 years. Millions have lost their lives, millions have been displaced, and today we are dancing over this fact, trying to evade it, whether Samajwadi Party or Congress Party, and our people have no shame that we even fail to name the persecuted minority for suffering just because of their religion. So for me, it's not a happy independence. For me, it's a tribute to the people who are still paying price for our Azadi. And that Azadi is adhuri till we are able to give them place in our land because Nehru Liaquat Ali Pact failed. Are we going to acknowledge it? As far as partition is concerned, what is the reason for partition? That we want to follow our own independent Sharia laws. We want an Islamic country. Islamic country was created over the dead bodies of millions. And on the top of that, if that is an Islamic country which wanted their own Sharias, the Muslims who stayed with a clear idea that we live as per the majority wishes, as per the majority constitution. But still we keep on beating our breast for the same thing in the name of communalism, secularism. Aren't we ashamed of the price our people pay for this independence? Now coming to how we trivialize the debate. Sanjay Jha starts every debate with abusing Modi ji and destroying every argument just before with some frivolous arguments about some Vinesh Fogart or somebody. So before I go to serious debate, does he know there is a girl called Shivani Pambar who lost her chance in the Olympics because Fogart decided to go for a lower weight category and this Shivani Pambar lost her chance? I'm not getting into that. She tried her best. She could not win the medal. To make it a case of uniform civil code, it shows the level of Mr. Sanjay Jha in these debates. Now coming more, what is the biggest joke on the people? 1995 Waqf Act. It was there in 54. Nehruji introduced 1954 Waqf Act introduced by British, which gave power for the state to look after enemy properties of partition. But what did 1995 do? What does 2013 amendment do? It gave absolute power to some Maulanas who can control your property, your destiny, your future by claiming something which is not there, and you can't even challenge that. And they are on the top of that. They've been paid by the state. What kind of secularism is this? And Dr. Ambedkar, who talked about secular constitution, put in directive principle. People who refuse to put secularism and socialism preamble, were they all communal? So we are trying to trivialize a very serious debate, which was, if you go to now the people who talked about this debate.
This is not a debate where politics should enter the realm. This is a debate where we should talk logically on our 78th Independence Day on how this country can be equal for everybody in the true sense. And if this equality that was promised by the Constitution and their Uniform Civil Code was a provision in Section 44, in Article 44 of the same Constitution, why today is it being called as something that is going against the Constitution? Well, only because politics depends on this differential treatment, and that causes vote banks that are safe banks for some political parties. The only question is, 77 years after our independence, is it time to revisit and follow through with what the Supreme Court has reminded us thrice and what was enshrined in our Constitution? That's the big question. On that note, this debate is not ending anytime soon. We'll continue to follow this, and thanking all my panelists for joining me on this